What's up YouTube? Ian Sandusky back here again for Let's Machine. Unfortunately, I know I said I was going to post a video about going to CMTS. We couldn't make it this week. We got bogged down with way too much work here at the shop. It happens, you know, better to get things done here than go. We'll probably go next year. I think we missed last year. I think we were there 2 years ago, regardless. Today we're going to be talking about, for Shop Talk, we're going to be talking about when to spend the money to buy the good tools. Everybody's done it, I'm sure, where you've gone to buy a new tool, whether it's literally a wrench or a fourth axis indexer, you know what I mean? You've gone to buy one of these things and you are faced with that challenge of, or that decision I should say, of do I spend $10 on this item or do I spend $100 on this item? When you're talking especially about hand tools, which I guess we're going to use a lot of examples of that today, it gets even foggier. You know, what's the difference between a $10 wrench and a $100 wrench? Or what's the difference between a $5 set of Allen keys and a $50 set of Allen keys? My whole theory on this, when to spend the money and when not spend the money, there's a few different factors to consider. One, I do like the old adage, I didn't come up with this, someone else did clearly, of spending the cheap amount of money, the low amount of money on an item first, and if you break it or need to replace it, that's when you spend the higher amount of money. Buy the Harbor Freight version of, or the Princess Auto or whatever version of this wrench or whatever. The second that wrench breaks, you know you're using it enough to warrant spending $50 on a better one. That being said, I do think it's important to always consider walking in how often you use this thing. A set of Allen keys I use every day. I'm not going to buy a dollar store set of Allen keys that are going to strip out and snap on me, because all I'm going to do is end up replacing them twice a week, as opposed to the good set of Bauhaus I bought or whatever that I bought once 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and I think I've broken one Allen key out of it. I've sanded down a few just to get a round out of them a few times. That's kind of my thought process on it off the the top of it. The couple things you shouldn't skip out on, no matter what, are metrology devices. So dial indicators, or anything you use to set up. So dial indicators, gauge blocks, squares, calipers. Calipers, spend the money, get the good ones. Don't get the piece of shit. Anything like that, those things are very important to spend a ton of money on, or not a ton of money, but the reasonable amount of money on, because that's going to be able to tell you if your other cheap tools are performing properly. If I am skipping out on my end mills trying to save money, I can't measure the part properly to find out if it's actually coming out in spec, then I'm never going to be able to evaluate that tool correctly. That's kind of my thought process on it. The other thing is, your metrology tools you're going to use every day. As a machinist, making parts in spec is the #1 most important thing you do on a daily basis. If you can't do that, if you cannot produce parts that come out in spec, you're not going to have any customers, you're not going to have any business. My thought process on that. The other thing you should spend the money on, lubricant, things for maintenance, maintenance items. So replacement parts, don't skip out and buy a replacement part from eBay for your Haas machine. Don't buy parts for your wire machine that aren't original equipment manufacturer. I've done it, I'm sure you've done it if you've been in this trade for any length of time. It's never worth it. The only thing I've ever bought once that worked was a light. Use your head. Don't try to replace essential parts in your machine and save a little bit of money on it. Spend the money on it, do it right, it'll treat you back. The other thing, and I guess the last thing you should be trying to think of when you're thinking about whether to spend money and when not to, things that involve repeatability, so vices and work holding, my opinion, spend the money on them. If you can't get a repeated action out of something, doesn't matter if you saved $500 on it, you're going to spend way more time trying to get that back in spec. And speaking of time, if you have to keep fidgeting or finicking with a cheaper tool to get it to work, and you spend a ton of time doing it, as opposed to a good tool where you can just plug and play, grab my wrench and use it, as opposed to trying to adjust my one little wrench to do everything. If you're spending a ton of time on something, remember, your time is money. Buying the right tool once may be a more expensive option, but then it may save you a ton of time down the road, and it pays for itself, and then you end up saving a ton of money, as opposed to fighting with this wrench once a week, or fighting with this setup block once a week that you tried to skimp out on, and now is the bane of your existence. Okay? Let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? I think when it comes to a lot of tools, there's not a huge difference between a $50 tool and a $100 tool, but there's a huge difference between a $5 tool and a $50 tool. I don't think buying the top of the line in anything is ever really necessary. You know, I buy them at a Toyo for my calipers and for my micrometers and such. But I'm not going to go spend, you know, $10,000 on a gold-plated whatever. You know, I don't need one blessed by the Pope. I need one that's going to be good and functional. I don't need one that's going to, you know, make me paranoid of using it. What's your opinion on this? What kind of bracket should I be saying? 90% of the max you can spend on this? Should I spend 70? Let me know your thoughts. It's interesting to hear, okay? Thank you very much for hanging out with me, guys. That's it for today. We're going to be doing a bit of surfacing, some upcoming videos. We're going to try to get a little more machining going here as I have some more time to do it. Make sure you like and subscribe below if you want to see more videos. Thanks for hanging out with me. Take care.